Well, folks, it is official. Earnings season is upon us. Earnings season is here, folks. It is getting kicked off. United Airlines says the world is less uncertain. The stock market loves when things are less uncertain out there. Posted this 51 seconds ago on my X page. If you don't follow me on there, it's always linked in the description area down there. AMD officially crossed 160 and closed above $160 here today. I hope everybody's a very happy AMD shareholder out there. Absolutely phenomenal to see. We have Palantir continuing to be red hot. $151 here today, nearly a 2,000% gain for me now at this point in time. Like, this is crazy to think, like, I put $11,000 into this cost basis with these shares, and that $11,000 has now grown to $226,000. Like, can stocks be crazy or can stocks be crazy? Like, it's unbelievable, right? SoFi is remaining hot. This stock's $21.39 closing here today, the highest close I've seen in a long time. This stock is up 157% for me now at this point in time. Unbelievable. Cheesecake, one of my favorite risk reward plays. This one's up about $70,000. It has started to slow down recently, right? It is over a $200,000 position now at this point in time. 5 core subjects I want to speak about in this one here today with you guys, okay? First is I'm going to share a big warning I gave my private stock group members yesterday, okay? And I want to let you guys know about that. Very important. Second thing is my Palantir problem. I want to cash another 500 shares, but should I do it before earnings or after earnings? We're going to discuss that in this video. It's very important you kind of, hear what I have to say in regards to that subject, because this is a dilemma I'm sure a lot of you guys go through sometimes when it comes to selling a stock. And you're like, okay, their earnings are coming up here in a few weeks. Should I cash it before earnings or should I wait till after the earnings, right? Because that's a big decision, because you could be talking about thousands, tens of thousands, or in some situation, hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference in, let's call it, up or down move there, right? Third subject we'll get into in this video here today is where is SoFi headed from here, in my opinion. Fourth subject we'll talk about is where Cake is headed from here. And then the last subject we'll speak about is when does this AMD move, which has been just parabolic, the stock's up 100+% from those April lows. When does it move slow? We're going to get into all that in this video. One thing I need from you guys, smash that thumbs up button. Can you please do that for me? Listen, only 7% of people smash the thumbs up button. 7% for the other 93%. Help a man out, please. That's all I ask from you. I put these videos together, man. These in-depth videos takes me 30, 45, 50 minutes to record them. Never mind the prep time that takes way more than that. I hope you guys appreciate it, man. I just need more than 7% of people to say, you know what, let me go ahead and hit that like button for Jeremy. I appreciate you, okay? Now, here's the deal, okay? I want your opinion on something. I really want your guys' opinion on something, okay? So, I'm sure a lot of you guys know that I will be moving next year, right? We're having a house built on some undeveloped land right now in a great community, a community I've always wanted to live in, right? This community, when I moved out here to Vegas, I was 25 years old, right? I had about $200,000 in stocks at that particular time. And I got a 3-bedroom apartment. And I remember always seeing this one community that was just incredible. And I always thought, man, what if someday I could have, a house on that hill up there, right? Like, just unbelievable. And so, that's actually happening now at this point in time. But my question for you guys is, right? And I'm super thankful for everything I've been able to achieve since moving to Vegas at age 25, because, man, it's, we come a long way. And to now think I've made, millions of dollars on several stocks, it's like that's crazy to me, man. Like, my whole net worth was $200,000 when I moved to Vegas, right? So, what do I do in my current house? I really would love your guys' 2 cents on this. I got probably about $1 million or maybe $1.5 million in equity in my current house. Would you keep the home, rent it for the next several years, or would you say, you know what, just cash it, sell it in 2026? I would love to hear your guys' opinion and perspective on this. And, as far as Vegas goes, we actually don't have a ton of, open land. We're actually starting to run out of land. And the reason being is if you ever look at a map of Las Vegas, essentially we're surrounded by mountains, like literally surrounded by massive mountains all around the whole city. If you've ever been to Vegas, you ever looked outside of like the hotel room, not just been on the casino floor, you'll notice, oh man, the whole valley's like surrounded by these massive mountains. And so we're actually like, there's going to be hardly any land left to even build anywhere close to Vegas, I would say within the next 10 years, essentially. And so I don't know, man. There's puts and takes in regards to it. I'd love to hear from you guys and your perspectives on this, okay? Now, let me discuss a big warning I gave my private stock group members yesterday. I said, let's play a hypothetical out. I said, let's say earnings season is a banger. This earnings season that we're just starting here, that's going to go on heavily for the next 4 weeks, okay? Let's say it's a banger earnings season. We see a ton of companies beating earnings. We see a ton of great guidances. We listen to conference calls. The CEOs sound much more confident than they did last quarter, right? I said stocks blast a new high after new high. And let's say there's no major drawdown this fall, which usually, like, I even hear already, people talking about there's going to be a drawdown in the fall. Maybe it's, September, October, November, there's drawdown. Let's say there's no major drawdown actually, right? Like 3 to 5%, but there's nothing major, like no 10% plus fall. I said a euphoric feeling starts to take over the financial markets. That's when I worry about the next phase of this market cycle. What would the next phase of this market cycle be if earnings were a banger, stocks blast a new high after new high, and we don't have a downturn this fall? The next phase of the market cycle would be altcoins and spec stocks. Scary. I said this phase is when people blow their gains they made on Palantir, Bitcoin, nvidia, AMD, Robinhood, SoFi, etc., on super strange spec stocks and altcoins. At first, they make money and they get sucked in even more. Next thing you know, they end up blowing all their gains on all this crap, all to eventually lose 70 to 100% of their capital over the following 1 to 2 years. We need to avoid this like the plague if it happens. That's a big if, right? Now, some people say, a lot of investors got hit heavy in 2022 coming off of the speculative mania that happened in like 2021, right? Spec stocks were like so in at that particular time and, altcoins, all that stuff. And we know how that ended in 2022. It was a bloodbath. It was ugly, right? So some people feel like that can't happen because 2022 happened. But here's the thing. You've got a lot of investors that probably didn't go through 2022, right? There might even be some folks watching this video right now that you started investing maybe in 2023. Or let's say maybe you started even investing in 2022. Or you started investing in 2024 or 2025. Well, you didn't experience that market, right? Because you had to be investing in 2021 and got into the crap to then got hit and learned your lesson and be like, I'm never messing with that crap again. Like, oh, heck no, right? So there's a potential here, folks, that could be a cycle that plays out. But the best case scenario, I would say, is this earnings season is a banger. Yeah, we build to new highs. And then we have a good drawdown in the fall time. People get slapped around a little bit, right? Because you need to get slapped around sometimes in the market. And the reason being is it keeps you focused on the highest quality assets because you start thinking about the risk before you make an investment, right? When you get slapped around a little bit, you start thinking, oh man, how much risk do I want to take? And that keeps you away from the garbage. So the moral of the story is here, the best thing that could happen is, we get another slap in our face, maybe in the fall time. Maybe it's not as dramatic as it was in April, but it's enough to make everybody get their senses up a little bit, get a little scared, get a little timid, and keep them focused on good assets, okay, rather than getting sucked into the other stuff that ends badly, right? By the way, we had another 3 folks hit 7-figure club in the private stock group this week, and 5 folks reach 6 figures plus. So we're sending out those trophies. Very, very exciting to see that. Phenomenal to see. If you're looking to access my private stock group, my private wealth group, get access to exclusive content, all that good stuff, 6-figure, 7-figure club, all my course curriculums, so you can stop gambling in the market, start actually investing for real, build a great portfolio, all that good stuff. Pin comment down there, click on that, fill out a form, and we'll see if we can get you access to that. You also get to see the stocks I'm buying and selling actively in my $3 million plus Fidelity account each week, okay, the public account, okay, and access to 1000xstocks.com. No, next up here, my Palantir problem. Let's talk about Palantir. Let's talk about if I'm going to cash a stock before earnings or after earnings, which is a big decision here. Well, if you didn't know when Palantir is reporting earnings, I have it for you right here, baby. They're going to be reporting earnings after the close of the market on August 4th. All right. That's, we can call it 12, maybe 13 trading days away from now. Either 12 or 13 trading days from right now. Okay. Not that far in the future. That's coming up much sooner than you anticipate here, right? Now, here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a situation here where the stock's 151. So let's say I cash out another 500 shares. You know I want to cash out another 500 shares before year end, right? Let's say I go ahead and I say I'm going to do it before earnings. I'm definitely a little scared that this stock could run to 175 plus after earnings. And we'll talk about that in why that could happen here. Now, on the flip side, let's say I don't sell that 500 shares. And let's say they start coming in with a deceleration of a growth rate, bye-bye to the 150s. And we might not see the 150s again for years if they posted a deceleration of growth. But I have a lot of questions if they're going to decelerate quite yet, okay? And here's why. If you look at there's a clear trend that's going on with Palantir, right? It's accelerating and accelerating and accelerating growth, right? And so if you just look at the trend, there's a pretty high probability that Palantir will likely come in with a growth rate, a revenue growth rate in the 40s, right? One is just by looking at the trend, like, if the trend continues, we're going to have something in the 40s for this revenue growth. But you take it a little deeper than that, right? And it also adds up pretty well because the quarter they have to comp against, essentially last year, it's a 27% growth quarter. Now, that's a pretty strong number, but you got to understand what that quarter comped against. That quarter comped against a 12% revenue growth number, the worst number Palantir's put up in years and years and years and years and years. You got to go back a lot of years to find Palantir growing. Actually, that might be the worst growth rate the company ever had in its history. Like, no joke. If it's not the worst the company's ever had, it's one of the worst numbers they ever had in terms of revenue growth. 12% is awful for the company. So this quarter looked like it was pretty strong growth at 27%, but it comped against such an embarrassingly weak number for Palantir at that particular time. So the moral of the story is here, I don't think 40% plus revenue growth here is out of the realm of possibility at all. Now, let me take it a step deeper for you guys and show why it's very possible this could be a 40% plus revenue growth quarter, okay? Listen, look at what number they put up last quarter if you exclude commercial contracts, the strategic commercial contracts, which is the whole SPAC crap they were doing, right? Which that's going to start rolling off for the company now at this point in time, right? They reported 44% revenue growth if you exclude strategic commercial contracts. Uh-oh. That was compared to only total revenue growth of 39%. So those are going to start rolling off here. So to say they're going to not grow 40% plus, I think there's a higher probability they grow revenue 40+% than don't for this quarter they're about to report. As in, I think there's probably about a 75% chance they end up growing revenue 40% plus, and probably a 25% chance they grow less than 40% for this quarter they're about to report here, okay? Now, additionally, this is very impactful for Palantir, the rule of 40, right? This looks at the company's margins, not gross margins, the operating margins, and their revenue growth rate, right? And what you're going to find here is the recent number was 83% for their rule of 40. Okay. Listen, I think their revenue growth is going to accelerate again, likely 75% probability, and their margin probably going to go even higher, which means you could see a high 80s number for the rule of 40, which is just, 83 is even ridiculous, but we could be talking about this number going to 87 or 88, maybe even 89 this next quarter. That's going to, this is the type of stuff that's going to get people very, very excited about Palantir. And this is the type of stuff that if also you start talking about rule of 40 of 88 or 89, you start talking about 40% revenue growth for Palantir, that's the type of stuff where you could get a blow off top in the stock. And you could get the stock to go 175, 200. And just everybody's just over the moon with Palantir. Obviously people are already super excited, but man, they come in with a 40-something% revenue growth number. They come in with a rule of 40 in the high 80s. People are going to flip their flapjacks, man. They're going to lose their mind. And so that's what I worry about is all of a sudden, I look out and let's say I sell the 500 shares before at 151 or 152 or whatever, right? And then, I lose out an additional, $40 a share. I mean, you could do the math on that. 500 shares times, another $40. what would that be, $20,000 of extra gains loss? It's not like it's a small amount of money, right? It's not a small amount of money. It's a large amount of money. That's tough. That's tough. So, but here's the deal, okay, with Palantir, all right, in the kind of medium term here, okay? I'm very confident that in the next 3 quarters, essentially, one of those quarters will be when the dreaded day comes, where Palantir actually starts to show deceleration of revenue growth, right? They go from, let's say they top at 45% revenue growth. They all of a sudden start going down like 42%, 39%. And that's going to be when a reckoning comes for Palantir stock after that, okay? Because of where the valuation is. And, everybody's gotten so used to these accelerations of growth rates. But the tough part is, what quarter is it? I don't think, like I said, I think there's only about a 25% chance it's this quarter they're about to report. So I would say a much higher probability of it being either the November quarter or the February quarter when they start to show a deceleration of growth. Now, maybe they don't even show a deceleration of growth. Maybe they take it up to, let's say this quarter, 42%. Then this quarter here, 45%. Then this quarter here, 49%, right? Then the next quarter, 55%. I don't think that's happening, right? Like at some point in time, the trend will break and Palantir will get smacked hard. And the issue is, it's not just that Palantir stock's going to go down. That's the thing people got to understand in regards to Palantir. Palantir will go down and not come back to that price for years. We're not talking months. We're not talking quarters. We're talking years. It'll be years before Palantir. So let's say Palantir tops at 200 and then the deceleration starts. Like Palantir won't see 200 again for probably 5-10 years after that. It would be a long time. A long time. So that's the thing you got to keep in mind here. And it's always possible it never even hits that level again. Whenever you're dealing with one of these stocks that's trading at like ridiculous price to sales ratios, P ratios, forward P ratios, things like that. When that cycle of deceleration eventually starts, it gets ugly really, really quickly, right? When you're trading like that. So tough decision that I'm going to have here, but I don't know. I'm a little bit leaning toward waiting until after the earnings. But then again, we'll see. Like, who knows? What if Palantir's 175 before the earnings? Shoot, man. And then the one last thing I could do. The one last thing is I could sell, since I want to sell 500 before year end. Here's the last idea, okay? I could sell 250 shares before the earnings and then sell my other 250 shares after the earnings. Could do that as well. A little half and half, and so I don't have to decide about the whole 500 at once, right? Which sometimes I like. And if you notice, I've been slowly de-risking Palantir and selling some shares in 100 or 200 share batches. So maybe that's what I'll do, okay? All right, guys, next up here, where's SoFi headed? Then we'll get into cake and AMD. So, SoFi, staying red hot. I mean, stock closing today, 21.39 on this one. It's just been phenomenal stock, to say the least, right? Now, I don't know if you guys follow me on the reaction channel. It's called Jeremy Lefebvre Makes Money. I react to a lot of different either articles or videos, things like that, right? I think it was this video here I reacted to. Anthony Noto, right? Anthony Noto. And Anthony Noto seemed happy. He seemed confident in that interview, as happy as Anthony Noto could be. He's a very monotone gentleman, right? But he seemed very, very confident. He did not seem like an Anthony Noto that is scared of they're going to miss earnings or something like that, right? And keep in mind, SoFi earnings are coming up here quick. SoFi earnings are in 9 trading days from now. They're going to be reporting before the market opens on July 29th. So 9 trading days from now. So that's coming up quick here, guys, okay? And that's obviously going to be a heavily watched earnings from many vantage points. And just not just retail investors. A lot of, I think, funds are starting to get involved with SoFi. And I think that's why we continue to see such great price momentum in regards to SoFi, right? Now, here's a deal with SoFi and where's the stock headed, okay? Listen, they've reported 6 straight double beats. 6 straight double beats on earnings per share and revenue, okay? If they can keep this going and they don't have a bad guidance, they have a good guidance, we're going to see higher highs from SoFi and you'll see the stock go probably $25 plus, right? Which is a big level for the stock. It's been a long time since it's seen 25 plus. But that's where I think we're headed if they come in with another double beat, and they have a good guidance, right? I think Anthony Noto, based upon the way his tonality on the interview he did recently on CNBC that I reacted to, right? I mean, honestly, he sounds like a man that has a little more clarity than last time he had the conference call. So I'd be very surprised and shocked to not see a good conference call and good numbers and a good guidance, right? Now, in the private stock group's Discord chat, on the SoFi chat, right, some members were sharing around kind of SoFi advertising. They're starting to advertise quite a bit on Facebook, Instagram, things like that, and their marketing actually looks really, really good. As well as this, they're advertising this a lot right now. SoFi is doing this 1% IRA match. So, that is for contributions and rollovers with no minimums. I think it's going to be interesting, right? That's the type of stuff. Like, SoFi's really trying to get the big money over. And, man, when you talk about getting people to get their IRAs over, that could be talking about substantial amounts of money, right? So we'll see. But SoFi is definitely on their game when it comes to marketing, advertising, getting more and more members to sign up for SoFi's products, get them more interested in SoFi. And SoFi's not just going after, there's a kind of a false assumption in regards to SoFi that SoFi is just going after very young people. They're not just going after those folks. Like, that's a very important group for them, right? You want to get the folks that are not let's call it loyal to a bank yet, right? You want to get the folks that, like a baby boomer, like if they've been banking with Wells Fargo for 140 years, like they're probably not leaving Wells Fargo, right? Like if somebody has been banking with JP Morgan for 32 years now, they're probably not moving from JP Morgan unless something goes so bad that they say, oh, you know what, I'm going to look for something else, right? So it's very important SoFi always grabs the younger generation, the millennials, Gen Z, and then when Gen Alpha becomes of age to really start getting bank accounts and things like that, it's very important SoFi grabs those folks. But it's a false assumption to think that's only what they're going after. When you talk about things like this and you talk about them marketing things like 1% IRA match, guys, that's speaking to 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds. That's not just speaking to young folks that, just got their first job or their second job or something like that. No. This is a type of marketing messages SoFi's sending that is like, if you're 45, you look at something like that and you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. SoFi's got something like that. Oh, maybe I should, let me run numbers on what that would mean for me if I did something like that, right? The 52-year-old that wants to retire in 10 years, he might look at something like this and say, you know what has SoFi got going on here? Let me run the math on this. What's the catch? Let me look into this a bit. That's who they're attracting. So do keep that in mind here, folks. Now, I got to give a big warning for everybody in regards to SoFi. It's very important I say this, okay? Because this is, I don't want people to get too excited about SoFi over this next 6 to 12 months. Because listen very closely, okay? SoFi is going to get hit hard in the next big recession. They're not going to be the only ones. It's going to be all the banks. But when the next big recession comes, I'm talking a big unemployment cycle, what's going to happen is SoFi's amount of assets are going to go down considerably during that particular time. Their growth rates are going to stall. And, they try to get a lot of the loans off the books, right? But there will be loan losses for SoFi even during that environment, right? They might not get hit as hard as some others, where a lot of banks and financial institutions, when times get really hard, what happens to them? They go insolvent. They literally go bankrupt, right? They go to zero. Like SoFi, since they get a lot of loans off the books, they shouldn't put themselves in that bad of a situation. But just understand, when the next big recession happens, SoFi stock's going to get hit hard. It's going to hit 50% plus. 50% plus. And so you just got to understand that as an investor, because someday the next big recession is going to come. I don't know if it's 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029. I don't know. But it will come one day, right? And so you just got to understand that about SoFi. Like, that stock's going to get hit very, very hard. Would I be shocked if in the next major recession, SoFi stock falls 75%? I wouldn't be surprised at all. Would I be surprised if it took SoFi 5 years to get back to its old highs after it got hit really hard? Nope. So that's what you got to understand about a stock like SoFi. It is a lot of fun right now. But there's a reason you don't see me risking the farm in SoFi. Because I am of the understanding that the next time we have the big one, SoFi is going to get hit hard, and it's going to be, easily 5 to 7 years before it gets back to its previous highs. It's just what happens in this business, man, especially when it comes to these sorts of stocks, right? The good news is, like I said, with Anthony Noto, he comes from Goldman Sachs. He understands risk very well. He understands trying to get the loans off the books as fast as possible. So SoFi should be able to stay afloat in the next big recession. That's always a risk, but they should be able to, unlike many other financial institutions that literally go belly up. I mean, look back to the great financial crisis and look to how many banks were failing in 08, 09, even into 2010. A long list. But SoFi tries to operate a little bit differently, right? Next up here, where is Cake stock headed? And then we'll talk AMD, and when does AMD stock price move slow, okay? So Cake, let me be very crystal clear, it's one of the best risk rewards I found in the stock market the last couple of years. We're now sitting on almost $70,000 of gains in the stock in the public count, and it doesn't even include all the dividends received. Remember, the stock pays me dividends in all my portfolios every 3 months. So this is one of the best risk reward profiles I can find in the market, right? Now, in regards to where the stock is headed, the more, as far as Cheesecake's earnings, they come out Tuesday, July 29th after the close of the market, right? Which is 9 days from now or so, 9 trading days from now, that is. The more Wall Street understands the North Italia opportunity and the Flower Child opportunity, the higher the stock is going to go. And the higher it's going to go, and the higher it's going to go. No, it will have short-term move downs in the stock price, right? Where, the stock will go down 5, 10, 15%. And then shortly after that, you'll see it at a new all-time high. And that's just what's going on here with Cake now at this point in time. The more Wall Street understands how big the Flower Child opportunity is, that it's immensely bigger than the Cheesecake Factory opportunity, right? The more they understand Flower Child's expanding everywhere, and the more they understand they got several concepts coming behind those, the more Wall Street's going to be like, oh my gosh, this is one of the best growth restaurant concepts we can find in the stock market with stability. Because remember, a lot of the growth concepts in the restaurant industry, they don't make crap for money. And so it's scary investing in those stocks because they trade at very high valuations, and if you had talked about a bad economy, those companies' numbers could go south very, very quickly. Which means the stock price for those type of stock could easily fall 60 to 90%. 60 to 90%. And, a lot of folks say, I don't know if I want to go down 60 to 90% on a stock. That sounds rough, right? With Cheesecake, you get great stability because they have an ATM of business model named the Cheesecake Factory, right? And then you get the growth concepts on top. So the more Wall Street starts to get it, the higher and higher and higher the stock will be. And next thing you know, we'll be talking about a $75 stock, and then we'll be talking about a $100 stock the more they get this. And the other thing you got to understand, even though Cheesecake's gone, been a great stock, listen, the stock still trades cheap. You're talking about forward P well under 20, which is under a market multiple on the stock. And for a company that has great growth for the next 10 plus years, it's trading way too cheap, folks. Way too cheap. So, Cheesecake remains a great risk reward, right? Once again, in the short term, who knows, maybe some numbers off and somebody doesn't like it, and so the stock goes down 10%. Who knows, man? But the moral of the story is, for the next many years, Cake should be on the upward move. Never mind if we talk about that Russell continues to move over the next few years much higher than it's been. If this Russell 2000 really gets kicked into gear, I think stocks like Cake will be even a bigger play. Then if we're talking about interest rates going lower, keep in mind, right? If you're a restaurant chain like Cheesecake Factory, how can you fund your expansion? It's 2 ways. Well, there's a few ways, but 2 main ways, right? One is by your existing business, funding it that way. And, you make $100 million in net income, you plug that right back into all new locations. That's one way. The other way is you take out debt, right? Which is very common. If interest rates go lower, people want to take on more risk in regards to thinking about stocks that are maybe interest rate sensitive. Cake comes to mind. They want to play Cake. Boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, you're at $100 plus stock. Okay, so Cake remains a great risk reward. Is it as attractive as it was when it was $31? No, it's not. But is it still very attractive for the long term? Yeah. As long as everything has been playing out, keeps playing out, we're looking very good here. Okay. When does the AMD move start to slow? Stock's over doubled from those lows, right? A lot of us are starting to make a lot of money on this stock, right? $123,000 up now on the public account. If I add this up with the AMD shares I have in my other portfolio, we're easily, I would say like a $200,000 gain, if not more than $200,000, which is crazy because when I moved to Vegas when I was 25, My whole net worth was $200,000, right? And this is just one stock. It's just one stock that's still a relatively new investment, right? So where's the stock headed from here? Well, here's the deal. When the deceleration hits, I don't even say hits, when deceleration in growth rates is hinted at, that's when the stock will start to, let's just call it a reverse course. But you might not see deceleration in growth rates until like 27, 28. Like we could be several years before you start to see a deceleration in growth rate. Once again, just for any like newbies that are watching this, a deceleration in growth is simply a company going from like, let's say 45% revenue growth down to 35% revenue growth, right? They're still growing really nicely, but they decelerate the growth rate. An acceleration of growth rates, let's say you're growing revenue 30% and then you bump it up to 33%. Your growth rate's accelerating. The next quarter, you bump it up to 36%. You're accelerating growth. The next quarter, you bump it up to 40%. You're accelerating your growth. And then you go from 40% to 39%. That's a deceleration of growth, okay? As simple as possible, just so if there's any noobs watching this, you know what a deceleration growth versus an acceleration. It's very important you understand this, to understand like why stocks move up so much, so violently, and move down so much, okay? Now, here's the deal. You might get a deceleration of growth in this current quarter they're going to report because of the whole China stuff and because, the MI 350 series, that's really going to be in this next quarter. So you might get a decel in this current quarter, but then after that, you probably won't see another deceleration of growth rate until, I would say, either 2027 or 2028. Which means this stock has a long runway of upward move to make here. So that's why for this stock to take out 200 really rapidly here and then go 250 and then we start talking about 300, it's not crazy at all. It's not crazy at all, man. And then you could have a pull down on the stock after that, and then you head up to $400 or $500 if Lisa Su and the team keeps putting up the numbers that I think they can put up, which I think things are looking really good for them. With the China business coming back online, with the way they've positioned AMD to, I think, really capture, I think, a lot of customer money over this next few years, coming in with such insanely high quality chips that they're going to be coming in here with the price points they're going to be coming in at. Yeah, I feel very, very good about AMD. So, after this quarter, they're going to be reporting. By the way, and it's possible they don't even decel in this quarter. But I think there's a decent probability they'll decel in this quarter, and then the guide will be for a much higher acceleration of growth, and that's all that's going to matter. And then next thing you know, we're going to be talking about AMD's 175. We're going to be talking about AMD's 200 after that, right? And so, yeah, like this stock will continue to run until we start to get hints that the growth rates start to decelerate. When that happens, then the stock will start to reverse course. But once again, you're probably looking 2027 or 2028 before you start to hear deceleration, because the MI 350 series is going to bump up the numbers as far as acceleration in a huge extent at the end of this year and then going into next year. Then we have MI 400 hit. You ain't seen nothing yet. When the MI 400 series hits and those numbers start to hit, big money, okay? So, here's my deal with AMD. If you look at all my portfolios, added them up, we should be $1 million plus AMD position next month. Am I interested in selling? No, not for a while, man. This party's still early, okay? Appreciate y'all for joining me as always. Thank you so much for being here. If you're looking to apply, join my private stock group, private wealth group, 1000xstocks.com, my private Discord chat, all that good stuff. Pin comment down there, click on that, fill out a form, see if we can get you access to that. When you join us in there, we'll send you your Steel membership card for the private group. And then we also send you your Steel membership card for 1000xstocks.com as well. It's beautiful. Much love and have a great day.